July of 1988, and nothing has changed. I'm still in California, enjoying that wonderful weather. Wish I had a little bit of that here right now because it's cold and a little snowy out. But back then, it was warm and sunny, and I was on the West Coast, and I was reading some books. What was I reading, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. The first thing I read in July of 1988 was Pale Kings and Princes by Robert B. Parker. This is a Spencer book. I got to check my notes here. So a young reporter is murdered. He was investigating cocaine trafficking. So, of course, once Spencer is hired to work on this case, that seems like the most obvious thing. But apparently he was also involved with someone who has a jealous husband. So could have been that guy. Who knows? You got to read the book to find out. It's just Spencer goodness. Next up, we have Invitation to Camelot, edited by Park Goodwin. And this is just an anthology of Arthurian short stories. I apparently still in the middle of my King Arthur kick at this point. Although maybe it's dwindling off. We'll see as the months go by. But I assume this was good. Had some decent... I saw Tanith Lee's name in the table of contents when I was looking this up. Chelsea Quinn Yarborough. Obviously more. Excuse me. But Arthurian short stories. Next, we have Pusher by Ed McBain, an 87th Precinct novel. Now, on my list, it says Pusher. When I looked it up to see what it was about, because I don't remember, on Amazon, it says The Pusher. So, I don't know if I just, for some reason, didn't put the, or if they added it in a later edition. I don't know. I may never know. But anyway, like I said, this is an 87th Precinct novel. A kid is found hanging. They assume it's a suicide, but then they find out that actually he OD'd. So somebody staged the suicide, and the detectives of the 87th Precinct are basically looking for a drug pusher and a murderer. Really enjoy these books. They're quick reads if you like police procedurals. I say that every time I talk about these, but they're really good. Let's see. Little Heroes by Norman Spinnard. This is a cyberpunk. I don't know if it goes completely into cyberpunk territory. There's a huge music production company that has basically cybernetic music acts or robotic music acts, I don't know. And they're not tearing up the charts the way, of course, this corporation would want them to. So they bring this old lady, rock and roll star out of retirement. She's like in her 60s, and they're trying to use her to program their robotic music stars. And she's not really interested. She doesn't like the whole robotics thing, but she needs the money and would like to see a return to like 60s rock and roll. And there's some drugs in there too. Anyway, yeah, that's Little Heroes by Norman Spinnard, I guess. Excuse me. Next up, Memoirs of an Invisible Man by H.F. Saint. This was made into a movie starring Chevy Chase. I think Daryl Hannah's in it, but I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen it since it came out. But the book came out back in the day, and I think even when I read it, it had a little thing that said soon to be a major motion picture with starring Chevy Chase, and it was a long time before the movie actually came out. But this is this normal guy, ends up in the wrong place at the wrong time and becomes invisible. And this is him trying to figure out how to live his life, trying to stay out of the hands of the government, because, of course, there's an invisible man running around. They want to know about it. They want to exploit it, so the government's trying to capture him, and he's trying to stay one step ahead, but also just have a life and figure out how to become visible again. The book wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I think it's better than the movie. If I recall, the movie's not as goofy as one might expect from Chevy Chase, but and the book is a bit lighthearted. But the book's definitely better than the movie. Next up, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, I don't know how you say it, by Leo Tolstoy. This is basically a look at death and how people look at it. The main character is a retired... No, I think he's still a judge. If I remember correctly, and this always sticks with me, he like bumps his elbow on something, and then like a bump forms, and it turns into cancer. It's obviously been a long time since I read it, but it's just something I think of anytime I like bump my elbow or something. It just, this story pops into my, I'm going to die now because I bumped my elbow. But basically it's the decline of this character and how he contemplates his upcoming death, how it affects those around him. Like I said, it's just a sort of a look at death. As I've mentioned before, if you watched other videos in this series, I do prefer Dostoevsky to Tolstoy, but this was a short one. So, next, the only book that I still own is Trace, Once a Mutt by Warren Murphy. Warren Murphy is one of the co-creators of Remo Williams, The Destroyer, for anyone who's familiar with the incredibly long book series, or the movie Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. But Warren Murphy also did some stuff outside of that, and this Trace series is one of the things he did. And this is Devlin Trace, who works for an insurance company as an insurance investigator. And in this particular book, he has to investigate when a widow tries to claim a $2 million policy on her husband. Of course, the insurance company doesn't want to pay out, so they bring Trace in, even though they don't like working with him. He doesn't like working for them, but he needs the money. He has a sex worker girlfriend who won't loan him any money. So he takes the case and investigates, and these are lighthearted. I would put them at the level of like Fletch, and similar to Fletch, they have stuff from the book on the front cover. That's just what the Fletch covers looked like, the old ones. But Insurance Investigator. These are a lot of fun. I have, I think, 4 of these. I'm missing the very first one, but I do have 4 of these. So if you're looking for a good mystery with a kind of a smart-ass, snarky character, well-written, fun, I recommend the Trace books and Trace Once a Mutt. Then we have Passage by Night by Jack Higgins. So again, if you've watched any of the older videos in this series, earlier I talked about A Prayer for the Dying, the first Jack Higgins book I read. I've read it many, many times, and one of my favorite books, and I started digging into some of his other stuff. So Passage by Night is about, I gotta look at my notes. Where is it? Harry Manning. And he used to do oceanic salvage operations around Cuba till Castro took over, and now he's in the Bahamas as a charter captain, just trying to make ends meet. And then one day a plane on which his girlfriend is a passenger explodes because of a bomb, and Harry... It basically becomes a revenge story. Harry wants to figure out who put a suitcase bomb on this plane and put an end to them, because they killed his girlfriend. So it's just international intrigue and revenge story. Jack Higgins, they're very easy to read. Excuse me, they can be complex plots without the complex writing, if that makes any sense. I really like Jack Higgins' stuff. And then finally, the last book I read in July of 1988 is In the Flesh by Clive Barker, which I believe is the 5th book in the Books of Blood series. And I don't have it. I don't have any of them. I'm trying to find... I would love to have the old copies with the really garish covers. I could easily buy. There's like just a plain old looking book that's got all of them in it, but I want those old ones. But from what I could find, excuse me, there are 4 stories in this volume. We'll get to the first one last. But there's a story called The Madonna. And that one is some guy, there's a building with some swimming pools in it. This guy wants to sell it or renovate it or something, and there's mysterious goings on in there. Babel's Children or Babel's Children, I don't know how you like to pronounce it. I thought this was kind of a cool one. This woman finds a village where like the smartest people in the world are originally gathered to use their intellect to predict big things that are going to go on in the world, but they've sort of degenerated and are just figuring these things out by games of chance, something like that. And it's just typical Clive Barker weirdness. The last story is In the Flesh, the titular story. And this guy's in prison. He gets a new cellmate named Billy, who says he committed a murder to specifically get put in this prison because his grandfather was executed in the prison and buried underneath it. And he's trying to find him. And again, weirdness, Clive Barker weirdness happens. But the highlight, I think, is the first story, which is The Forbidden, which most people are going to know as Candyman. Yeah, The Forbidden is the story that was made into the movie Candyman. A student studying graffiti and urban legends, or maybe she's just studying the graffiti in the story, which leads her to the urban legend of the Candyman. And, again, Clive Barker craziness ensues. So that's it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books in July of 1988. And not a bad, that's an interesting mix, I think. We got some mysteries in there. We got some classics. Leo Tolstoy, come on. A little fantasy, a little science fiction, a little horror, a little thriller, Memoirs of an Invisible Man. I don't know. Is that science fiction? I mean, it's got an Invisible Man in it, but I don't know. Anyway, it's a good mix of books. And I'd recommend, if you want to read some Tolstoy, I mean, it's a short one, Death of Ivan Ilyich, so pick that up. Can't really recommend Heroes because I don't remember anything about it. But I think all the rest I would recommend if you're in the mood for a mystery or fantasy or some horror or some other stuff. Anyway, that's it. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. Trying to grow my audience. I don't know why. Although I do need like 1,000 viewers or followers if I want to monetize. Although that's not important. It'd be kind of cool. See if I can make 5 cents. So please like, share, and subscribe. Share. I guess that's the important part. If you want to follow me on social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram is ErikSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. All right. I think that's it. So until next time, read more books.